Pretty nice, hey?
It's like so, what's it called when somebody looks a little... Hi, everybody. We
Hi,
are
guys.
joined by Carmen and another version of myself.
Yeah.
This is weird for me.
It's nice. I like Christina so much, I want to see her twice.
Yay.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone joining from everybody. Poland. We got Poland. Someone from
Nice.
Poland here. What time is it there? I feel like a big time change. Wild.
It's late. It's late in
The
Poland.
word is uncanny. Yes. Millie, it's just like we filmed some content with my cardboard cutout yesterday, and it like was really strange for me. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, she's just chilling with me in my office now. Me and my kids can play with Christina anytime we want.
Imagine walking into your office late at night and just seeing me staring at you.
Actually, I this morning, Pat, my husband, like propped you up, like standing up in my office, just peering out the window. And this morning I did have a little jump scare. I was at my fridge and I looked over and I was like, oh my God, it's Christina.
Your poor children. They're going to have nightmares about me. Wow. Well, hey, everyone. Welcome to the Social Club. This is so fun. We're so excited to have you here. It is the middle of summer. It is hot. We're all enjoying the heat. Maybe not in some places around the world. I know that it's not summer everywhere, but it is summer here in North America. And it's getting toasty. So I hope you're all inside in some sort of air conditioning or by a pool or by some body of water if you need to jump in and cool off. We're excited for today's chat because we're talking about summer social strategy. We all know engagement dies down a little bit during this season. You're competing with in real life experiences. A lot of people are not spending as much time on their phones. And if they are, they're definitely not spending time on their phones looking at brand content. They want to be entertained. Summer is a time to like take a load off, relax, drink some margaritas. We're excited to have a really fun discussion with our panelists today. Gonna do some housekeeping before we introduce our panelists. This session is going to be recorded, obviously, and sent to your inboxes tomorrow. So if you aren't able to watch the whole thing, don't worry about it. We will send it to you, and we will have a lot of clips posted on LinkedIn as well. The second thing is that there is a question and answer box. So we have some really awesome panelists, like I said before, and they are here to answer all of your questions. So feel free to use that question and answer box because that will be your place to ask them more specific questions about what they've said during the chat. So you can either ask in the Q&A box or you can ask in the chat, and we'll try to make sure that they go to the Q&A box. Otherwise, I think that's pretty much it for housekeeping. Make sure to say your names. This is where we build community in the chat. The chat is where most of the fun conversation happens. And I'm excited to be in there as well. So before I keep talking too much, we want to hear from our panelists. I'm going to let Carmen take it away, and I will see you all at the end of the chat for a 10-minute question and answer period where we can dig in. All right. I'll see you all a little bit later.
Great. Yeah. I mean, I think everyone can come on now. I don't have anything too incredible to say without them, but I am. Woo! Hi, Sarah.
Hello.
I'm excited to get the conversation going. I feel like it's always better to talk with you guys than to have me natter on for too long. So what I'm going to have you do is I want you to introduce yourself, talk a little bit about the work that you're doing right now. And then I want you to tell me your favorite platform that you like to doom scroll on, because, I have my favorites and I want to know yours. But let's start with you, Sarah.
Hi, everyone. I am Sarah Whittle. You might have seen me on LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram. I'm kind of everywhere. I got a very large digital footprint. Smosh. We got a Smosh mentioned 2 seconds in. But I'm the brain behind billions of views at brands like Crocs, Duolingo, Smosh, TV, and even my own handles. And as you know, a few months ago, I quit my job to start my own consulting business. So I've been social media consulting for really fun brands, cooking up things. I wrote an infomercial I'm really excited about shooting in a couple of weeks. And my favorite platform is to doom scroll on Instagram. I am an Instagram girly. That was one of my first ones, aside from MySpace and Zanga back in the day. Instagram is my longest social media platform, and I still like it.
Yeah, it's interesting. It used to be TikTok all the way for me, and up until like 6 months ago, I would have said TikTok. Something weird has happened. I fell
out of love with TikTok actually like 2-3 years ago. So,
okay.
But I'm slowly coming back to it, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. I try to just like hold them at arm's length, all of them, and then when one of them bothers me, I then bring one of them a little closer. You know? Yeah. Great. Okay, Millie, I'm going to pass it off to you.
Oh my gosh, that was great. Well, hi, everybody. I'm Millie. I am the Senior Brand Strategy Partner at Pinterest. Bit of a new role for me. I've been around for around 3 months at Pinterest. Prior to that, I was in a creative strategy role at #Page. So a lot of good creator brand work there. And then prior to that, I was at TikTok, also as a creative strategy lead. So I know these titles tend to be quite like nebulous and weirdly vague, but my role is really just to maximize what brands can do on these platforms and really sort of be at that intersection of creativity, breaking the pattern, and really enabling brands and agencies to do the best possible like platform native work. And that tends to be a lot of times with creators, sometimes with really amazing brand assets. So yeah, super excited to chat more about summer on social.
Yeah, and I think that's so many that's so many interesting perspectives because, obviously TikTok and Pinterest are big names, but then agency side too. And I feel like we've had discussions before that so much of your work is about this like pattern disrupt and like what can brands or let's say personal brands do to like show up in a way in social that actually gets them noticed or, allows them to thrive and build something.
Yeah, that's literally it. I think, where I sit, it's really important to understand the rules of the game and knowing what levers to pull on each platform. Yeah. But then the other piece of it is once you've, really honed in on all the best practices, like how can you actually break the platform? How can you break formats? How can you break expected ways of showing up in order to really capture that audience attention and really kind of create a little wedge between the place where you want to be and then the place where you currently are as a brand. So yeah, but then also I know I didn't answer your question around my doom scroll platform. It's so funny. TikTok didn't used to be my doom scroll platform, but now it's 100% just like pure doom scroll. The most recent piece of like funniest doom scroll I saw was last night, and I sent to one of my friends, was Donald Trump at a press conference basically saying like, hey, did you see the recent numbers on TikTok? I'm number one. I'm the biggest. I'm like, yeah, this is where we are. I'm like, I hope they're sharing out these numbers.
Yeah, well, he doesn't surprise me that he's the source of doom scrolling. He's probably right at the bottom of the doom.
Yeah, also count on me to bring up Donald Trump in the first few seconds. So
no, it's good. It's a safety tree. You're allowed to. Yes. Okay, Sofia, you round us out.
Hey everyone, my name is Sofia Aguilar and I am the founder of Aguilar Media Group. I started my own agency, but before that I had a dance company. So I did pivot from having a dance company, which I love. I love my culture. I love everything that we did, but I wanted to pivot. So I do multiple things, but the current priority in my business right now is helping founders specifically in ministry or launching their own business or have pivoted from either corporate going into their personal brands. So just really supporting businesses and agencies with their brand strategy, their visibility strategy, especially in the time where people feel like, oh my gosh, if I talk about who I am and what I've done and showcase it all, I'm not being humble. No, I really just crush all of that, help them with creating their content, strategizing, and being visible. I do now touch into more of the marketing front because I realize that social media is just one piece of the puzzle. And we really need to begin to look at, brand partnerships, email marketing, funnels, AI. And so it's kind of, as we all know, it never stops as business owners and creators. So you're like, I just wake up today and maybe there'll be another app I got to figure out. So that's where I'm at. My favorite platform to doom scroll, I swear I doom scroll everything. Like, give me 30 minutes on each app. Threads is hilarious. It just depends the kind of mood I'm in. Like, if it's before bed and I just really want to have some good laugh, I'm gonna go on TikTok. In the morning, it's just Instagram. And then Pinterest, when I just went to an event and I had nothing to wear. All I did was doom scroll outfits that I could never put together. So it depends what I need, what my heart desires on that day. So yeah.
I like that too. I mean, it's like, I agree that there's different scrolls for different moods, and you got to pair them adequately. Okay, so we're ultimately talking about marketing and social, and maybe even just this sort of idea of pattern disrupt in the summer when things feel a bit different. Q3, I think, has a slightly slower feel to it sometimes. And obviously, like, we're in peak summer right now, and it's a brief window of time where it's actually kind of easy to put your phone down. Like, normally I wouldn't say that, but I have been feeling, compelled to convene with the real world. So I want to know, first of all, like, can social teams afford to go through a natural lull where you might pull back a bit and maybe prep a little bit more for the future? Or do you need to almost do like the opposite, which would be like up the ante and go crazier than normal in the summer? I'm going to pass it first to you, Sarah, because I see you nodding.
I've run social teams and social programming at Smosh, which is like a creator brand. And that happened to be, summertime used to be our highest time of the year because most of our key demographic was out of school. So we would do tentpole activities to make them even more exciting. So we had a series called like Smosh Summer Games. So we would actually lean into those high times. But on the Croc side, and Duolingo, there's ebbs and flows. And obviously, it seems like the most resources get pushed behind campaigns. So I think that's the reality, is like campaigns are usually the ones that we have to center around. But on the inverse, I feel like at any point in time in social, you're competing against a lot. And this summer, you're competing against a lot. The Knicks just won, and I feel like that took over all of the internet, not just New York City, but we also have the World Cup here in the US. And then we also have a news cycle that won't ever end. And I'm a big believer that, like, yes, momentum is good. And like when you have momentum, hop on that. But I also think that like a lull and a flop era is just the price of entry when you're doing social. So what are you going to do? Are you going to panic in that moment? Or like you said, take a step back, maybe go in autopilot for a little bit, maybe hit some formats that work every time. I think something that's been a staple in my career is like I do a Zodiac meme. Those pop off every time. They have popped off in 2011, 2015, 2018, and 2026. So like you can go back to formats that perform really well. And this is the time when I think you should like go for good trouble, make friends in the building, see what other debauchery you can. Maybe you prep a product specific thing later in the year. And so I think this is the time where you can get creative rather than panicking in the moment that your numbers are low. And hopefully that your team and your leadership is aware of that and not so much like pressuring you to like always be viral all the time, because that's just a bad vibe.
Yeah. And I think that makes a lot of sense too. Like, I mean, obviously that is a strategic play to say, okay, what's worked for us in the past? What's something we could just like dose into the calendar that doesn't feel like we need to reinvent the wheel? And I mean, I'm definitely guilty of that, like not sort of repeating my winning formats as much as I should. I'm curious what you see, Sophia, with like the clients you're helping, especially if you're helping execs or, senior leadership show up on social. Does summer get treated differently?
I would say not really. I don't like summer. To me is just another month. Like July is really just another month. It's not like I don't have kids, so I don't have school is not out, like for me it's a regular Tuesday that's going on. And one of the things I always make sure to tell all my clients is don't test July like February. I think that everyone loves to do this comparison of like, oh, but this was working in February. Right, it's July.
Yeah.
Let's test against what happened last July. I feel like that's our biggest data driver. You don't compare it to the previous month. Well, yes, a lot of people do test analytics from the past 30 days, but it's really important to also know what took place. You know, the dips that tend to happen and patterns that people like to follow. I love, Sarah, what you just said. And something I always say is, you know, this is your sandbox. Social media is literally the sandbox we get to play in as adults. And so I like my clients and let them say, let's explore something. We've never done this before. What's the worst that could happen? I promise you, nobody's looking at 9 a.m. and refreshing their feed to see if you posted today. And if you didn't, it's not the end of the world. But I do like to give them that permission to refresh your mind. We are founders. Most of my clients are founders. They're leaders, and a lot of their I guess the arena they play in is exhausting. They won't admit it, but it's exhausting. So I do say refresh, like take some time, have a creative pause, and when you come back, you will be so much happier that you did that. For you and your teams will say thank you, because you actually get to like have a lived perspective of life instead of just constantly creating for the sake of, I want to do a yap challenge, or I want to do this and I want to be relevant here. It's allowing yourself to just touch grass and play in the sandbox for a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think I ultimately feel like it's better if you, maybe I'm speaking more from a personal brand standpoint, but I feel like it's better to post nothing if you don't have a great post in mind than it is to just like force it. I think sometimes with a brand account, like Sarah was saying, you kind of just have to like keep on tapping into the things that have worked, but agreed that there's a time and a place to take a pause. And maybe it doesn't have to be seasonally, motivated. Something I've been thinking about is that like trend cycles move so fast now that by the time a brand figures out how to participate in something, the ship has already sailed. You ultimately can look pretty cringe or, ill-timed quite quickly. And I'm kind of curious if in Q3, with a slightly slower pace, maybe lower stakes, like, does that give brands a better window to be culturally relevant? Like, I want to hear from you, Millie, because obviously you're doing a lot of strategy work, and curious how you feel about this.
Yeah, I think Q3 is interesting, and especially, in 2026, where the proliferation of micro trends and micro aesthetics is sort of everywhere. I think you can find probably anything from like whimsy maxing to analog summer to literally anything in between on the internet. So there's a lot of room to take those trends and sort of translate, what that actually means for your brand and what that means for your specific campaign. I think as somebody who works in paid social, what I see, and especially across the CPG sector where kind of majority of my client book sits, what I'm seeing is that there's not so much of a focus on tapping into micro trends as there is sort of a bigger push on getting some of that cultural cachet from the events that are happening IRL. And so things like exactly what Sarah mentioned, like FIFA or the Knicks win, there's a much bigger push around these sort of cultural moments where a ton of budget has already been invested from a sponsorship perspective. And so how can more conversations rally around that? How can we sort of intercept these fandoms that are naturally sort of congregating on these different platforms? And how can we speak their language in a way that they're sort of going to listen to us and also place our products in interesting and really, I'm going to say like sometimes even subversive ways that they fit within this overall moment and sort of content wave. So that's really what I'm seeing right now as far as briefs, but also like as far as what you were mentioning earlier, what are we seeing overall from like a brand perspective, and do people, shut down, or where does that sort of ebb and flow during Q3? I'm seeing like quite the opposite. I'm seeing like a massive ramp up of spend from a paid perspective. ton of campaigns really, really ramping up. And I think we're seeing a lot of great results from these campaigns and from the creative that's coming out, because my theory around Q3 is that it sort of brings people out on social. I know it sounds almost counterintuitive, like everybody is outside, everybody's touching grass. It's okay to, not do the thing. But what I think is inversely happening is that summer gives people the permission to participate in a way that typically during the year they're lurkers, the 1-9-90 rule, where like 1% is creators, 90% is the occasionals, then the other 90% is like literal, just pure on lurkers. I'm probably the 90%. In the summer, we see people participating more and producing content more because that psychological barrier to entry just lowers. And so people feel more inclined to, post a little beautiful sunset or post something where the other splashing in the water. And so there's this sort of momentum around participation and engagement. And we're seeing that sort of resurgence, especially, I think, across CPG.
Yeah. And I mean, also like social ultimately opens you and your brand to the whole world. And like, it's not summer everywhere and it's not, a down season everywhere. So it's probably like a good reminder that there's sort of like different seasons for different industries and different audiences that you might be trying to reach. I think it's interesting to also think about like what is like the permission of brands to participate in trends, and like this, I like that you're talking about this sort of like micro trends, but then maybe like broader cultural movements, because this, I don't know what it was this week, 2 weeks ago, the couple that climbed to the top of the Empire State Building, and then like, every brand and their dog jumping on like this trend of like trying to co-opt their flag and put their message on it. Like, oh my gosh, I just felt like it was this moment where I was like, are we okay? Do we all need to take a breather? Like, is this how we do social media? I just don't know where the pressure to participate in those moments is coming from. And I want to talk about it. Like, what do you think that's coming to the social team from above and then they're just having to act on it? Or do you think the social team legitimately thinks this is a good, strategic decision?
I think it's like a microcosm of like what meme culture was originally founded on. It was like, it's a very community-based thing. We all like 𝐘𝐿 has cheeseburger, cat memes, and like that's where it started, is everyone would adopt the same image and put their own twist on it. I think we're getting lost in the sauce. And I'll get on my take an improv class pedestal and a little preview. I'm doing a keynote on doing the power of yes and how it infuses into brand strategy. Like, this is not to throw shade, but a lot of those brand adoptions are not a yes and, they're just a yes slap. Like, they're just taking the format and slapping their logo on it, and it's like, let's challenge ourselves a little more. And so I think the internal conflict probably comes from, yes, it could be pressure from leadership, being like, hey, these are trending. When I worked at a certain job, I was told leadership was like, gnomes are trending. And I'm like, no, that is just one creator going viral right now. Okay. Yeah. And so I think the pressure can come from above, but I think the teams itself, it can be self-fulfilling pressure, because maybe those kinds of opportunities are the only opportunities that they have to break from the branded format, from what looks on brand, from what the creative team thinks is good design. And so they think like, oh, this is our opportunity to have fun, to get a little spike in impressions. But I think it's now becoming very transparent that like every day after that thing happens, someone on LinkedIn is putting a mosaic of all the things. And I think it is a good mirror for us to look at, because I think one team that did it really well was DoorDash. And that's shout out to Zaria, who I worked with at Duolingo, and she's a legend. And her team did a yes and. They said DoorDash delivery on top of the Empire State Building. It's like a, if you know, you know, but the image was still very fun, that if you didn't know, it was still very engaging. So I think us all should challenge ourselves to, how can we, if we are adopting those trends and if they are appropriate to adopt, are we actually yes-anding the trend and infusing the brand into it? Or are we just adding to the noise and slapping our logo on it? It's the same as like a collab product. You know the collab products that are just a logo slap versus something that's really infused with the two brands and their vibes put together. We need to be going for the latter and not just like slapping it on.
Yeah, totally. And I agree. I agree that DoorDash did a good job, but then I also agree, I also feel that the mosaics that show everyone who participated in that trend diluted it for everyone. You know what I mean? It was just like, like hard to look at, because ultimately I know how I would feel if I was in that social team who had participated and maybe not felt 100% about it. And
exactly. And that's the thing. I'm not coming from like a judgmental POV, and I think it's like I'm never gonna like, yuck someone's work, because there's a lot of politics. We all know, like there's a lot of politics, there's a lot of opinions, there's a lot of this. But I think like, for me, I'm like, okay, how do we challenge ourselves? That was something that happened at Crocs all the time, was like, is this a trend we should hop on? Do we actually have a witty take, or are we just like adopting a thing and just trying to get in on the conversation? I think the ones that are willing to ask themselves the hard questions are gonna like be able to persevere and be more relevant throughout.
Yeah. I think I feel like sometimes we like glorify the really agile reactive team in social. Like, oh, it's so good to be able to like hop on things and be really quick. And when I see moments like this, I question that. And I'm curious how all of you feel in the work that you're doing and the clients you're working with or the brands you're working with. This push and pull between having a really like agile reactive approach to strategy on social or in brand, and then let's say, I don't know, what's the opposite of agile and reactive? Maybe planned and premeditated or something like that. Curious for Millie, Sophia, your thoughts on this, and Sarah, your thoughts on this. But yeah, like what is your personal outlook on how you should balance this like agility and reaction versus having an actual plan?
So I'll jump in. I love what Sarah, what you were saying is like asking yourself those tough questions. I literally had to do that this week of like, do we need to do this Empire State Building meme for one of our clients? And the reality is I have to ask myself, yes, this might be culturally appropriate, but branding, it just doesn't make sense with the brand. And so I'm okay with getting the backlash from somebody saying, hey, but this is trending on social media. That's great. But what is it going to do for you? And I pride myself on saying, how do we actually use this moment to start something that's ours? Because I think I love what DoorDash did, because they actually didn't do the typical thing. I don't know if you guys saw, but Kit Kat put like the ring on one of their Kit Kat bars. And so they took it and made it themselves. I love when somebody will take what everybody else is doing and twist it to make it according to them. Because what that does is, for me at least, and from what just the 2 cents that I'll give, is people form brand association either way. Brand association is formed either way, right? So if I see the same sound, the same backdrop, the same thing happening, what actually ends up happening in a psychological way is people just start ignoring it. It's the same format on the 100th account. So now it stops being about who's behind it. You're just literally the same wallpaper. So instead of people associating it and being like, wow, this is so unique and different, you've isolated yourself to now be a part of the same pattern. So that movement and that pressure, I always like to challenge it to say, yes, the trend is there. I don't feel the pressure because I can understand how a brand fits within it. And it's okay if you don't. The FOMO is real of, yeah, I could make the move, but tomorrow the trend is going to die and there'll be another one that jumps on. And what I would have said to some people is, if I worked with a brand that wanted to drive it, I would say, let's climb to the top of our building together. Like, let's get on our rooftop and try to do something to kind of still own your own content and build a potential series or own the actual content that's being created rather than jumping on somebody else's movement.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think that there are good ways to be reactive. I also think that Pinterest, for example, does a very good job of being predictive. A lot of what Pinterest does is working on trends before they become a trend. Like, Millie, I'm curious if you have some insights there about like how do you embody that from like the brand perspective, or if you're working with clients, like how can you try to be a little more predictive than reactive?
Yeah, totally. Let me just very quickly chime in with a thought on Empire State.
Yes. That's it.
+1 to, everything that Sarah and Sofia said. I think ultimately best brands tap into these types of moments in an additive and referential way. It's not just about, skinning the format and inserting brand logo. The other part of me is always saying, like, who are we creating this for?
Yes.
Like, are we creating this for other marketers? Are we creating this for a chronically online audience?
Yeah.
Like, who is even remembering this past like 7 days, if even that long? So I want to kind of encourage, internal teams when it comes to social teams at brands, or even agencies who are really out there producing amazing organic work, really sitting and thinking about, am I actually creating this for my audience? Am I creating this for myself? Do I really think it's funny? Like, really understanding what that nuance is and being able to capture the right trends and the right moments in a way that feels adequate to the brand and ultimately feels meaningful and also not exploitative. Because I know sometimes with, I was just talking to another friend who works at an agency, and, she was mentioning, a trend happening in her community that a brand that she works with wants to really wedge themselves in. And I'm like, this is a very grassroots moment for that.
Mm-hmm.
What you don't want to be is extremely exploitative and almost just like an uninvited visitor who wants to make money off of a thing that's happening somewhere that's very grassroots and organic. Yeah. So anyways, that's my 2 cents on the actual Empire State moment. The other piece, yes, Pinterest really relies a ton on its predictive nature, right? There's this internal/external stat, where our Pinterest Predicts report that comes out each December for the following year is pretty much accurate to the point where 90% of the trends that it predicts come to life in some way, shape, or form. And I think what's really cool is that, not only advertisers have access to these materials, but actually like the public at large, and brands, small and large or of any size, really have ability to take a look and gain all these insights and then sort of create not only content, but products and experiences based on these sort of bigger shifts and bigger forces that, Pinterest is predicting that are going to happen. But I think what's also cool about Pinterest as a platform, and honestly, I'm not here to talk about Pinterest as a platform, but things that I'm genuinely just, as a consumer excited about is the fact that, trends last much longer on Pinterest. So whereas, this proliferation of micro trends happens on Instagrams and TikToks in a very short span of time, things linger and content lingers on Pinterest for much, much longer. And that gives, advertisers and brand teams and agency teams the ability to really kind of dial in when they're going on, trends.pinterest.com, really dial in on what are people searching for? How are they searching for? What is that causal relationship? And really do some solid like mind mapping around where their audiences are spending time, what are they actually looking for, and how can they utilize those insights and data in order to reach them. But I think just like that ability to sort of like have content in the market for a longer time, not experience that fatigue that typically, everybody is trying to fight against, is quite unique to the platform. So I don't know if that helps answer the question, but.
Yeah, I think like, obviously Pinterest has access to data that, the average brand doesn't, but in some ways I feel like your answer is part of the way that you act predictively instead of reactively is you use data. You look at what's working, or you look at other cultural indicators that might be outside of like your company's proprietary data, And I think that makes a lot of sense. It's like saying like, let's not just make our decisions based on vibes, which there's always these sort of like memes making fun of like vibes marketing based on like, marketing that is actually rooted in data. And I think social teams have to operate similarly where, like Sarah had said originally, like, okay, what's a meme that's worked for us? Or what's a format? It doesn't have to be a meme, but what's a format that's worked for us multiple times in multiple seasons across multiple years? Maybe that's a really good like health indicator that would be something that could also, then be good for us in times where we don't want to be reactive and we don't want to just tap into the most recent trend. Something I want to know, which I think would be helpful to a lot of people who are listening, is I feel like there's kind of this cliche binary in social media where like personal brands and personal accounts can be like cool and fun and sort of like entertaining, but brand accounts are like, ugh, like what a bore, or like nobody wants to follow a brand account. And we know that's not the case. There's many brands that have interesting accounts that you want to follow, but if you had to personally advise a brand on like, how are we going to approach strategy in a way that doesn't feel like we are like capital C company coming at you in the feed? Like, where do you start? Where does that process start? And like, what are some pragmatic tips that people watching right now can apply as if you were advising them? Sarah, do you want to?
Yeah, I think there's like two elements at play. Like one is just the undeniable factor that social media has just become more of like the entertainment place to be. I think how algorithms are shifting to, yes, it's topic based, but we also have like news and information and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, it's not social media, it's engagement media. So you need to find formats and content that will get engagement. And most of the time people are opening up their phones to be entertained and delighted, and then you're just like informed because you're just getting shit in the feed. So I think that's like inherently a very difficult thing, and some brands are going to be a lot easier to program that entertainment factor for than other brands. But then it's also like a conversation with leadership of like how long you should go, and there's a lot of outlying factors that make it really challenging inherently, resources too. But I think the biggest thing that every team should start with social strategy is like, who is actually the audience and who are we tapping into? Because not all audiences are created equal. And I think like when you build a brand, and I'm not talking about a particular brand, but it's like if you build a brand that's focused in on an unhinged audience or a very niche audience, you are painting yourself into a very difficult corner, especially when you're looking at conversions and stuff. So you'll have to be realistic of like, who is our demo? Who is our customer we're going after? What is the information or the exciting, entertaining stuff that we need to be able to capture their attention? And then you can also go on the inverse of like, be a little full of tension. With Crocs, it was really fun because we also had a lot of haters. So it's like playing with like what audience is going to play with us and how they're going to play with us. But I think a lot of social teams initially start with like, oh, we got to get viral and we got to like get a lot of attention. But I think that is a recipe for disaster when you're not thinking about who is the audience and who is the customer that you actually want to go over. And I think even now, especially with B2B and in linked influencer, we're learning the power of smaller communities too. So I know C-level execs want to have 14 billion and million and whatever, like they want those numbers. I don't think like the explosion of like Duolingo is going to happen anymore. I don't think that those types of accounts are going to happen. What's going to happen is like more niche, more deep, more less brain rotty, and just more of an intentional strategy and an intentional posting plan to be able to capture the audiences that they really want to capture.
Yeah. And I mean, I think there's also just like this sense of goalposts moving, Duolingo had its time in the sun, and we're probably not going to see somebody follow that trajectory again just because like it's already been done now, and maybe people are trying to work on a specific strategy. I forget the word you were using there. It was like you were saying it's like kind of like maybe a little bit less veneer or like a slightly more like niche kind of following. And it's like, okay, when that happens too much, then something else will have to happen, So it's like a lot of it is about being flexible.
And it's going to change because it's like, I think Smosh is a great example. It is a 21-year-old YouTube brand, and it started with 2 boys singing Pokemon in their bedroom in Sacramento. It is not that now. It is kind of like an SNL improv troupe group of personalities. You have to evolve, and you will evolve, but you're going to keep some things the same. But if you try to switch up audiences all of a sudden, that after you've built one before, that's when you're going to have like a really tough time.
Yeah. Millie, what about the brands you're working with, like to get the most out of Pinterest? Like, how are you helping them be less of this, like what I'm calling capital C company, and be a little more like fluent in the platform?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think especially, you know, coming off of working at TikTok and then working at #paid, I was so deep in the creator work. Like that is kind of like my brief. Every day was just like, how can we make XYZ happen with creators? And then moving on to Pinterest, I kind of had to shift perspectives and really think about, you know, how do these brand stories come to life through brand? Like brand needs to be telling it for the most part. So that's been an interesting challenge, and really understanding, you know, how do we get brands to speak the Pinterest language, because they're not as attuned to it, like language of aesthetics, languages of craveability, languages of just like tactile sensory content, which performs really well, but is also so highly savable and really kind of extends the longevity of, you know, an ad, but also just even an organic piece of content. So that's been like one space that I've kind of honed in on. And obviously I'm speaking from the sort of perspective of CPG. Then the other piece I think has really been reintroducing this idea of creators and the fact that creators truly belong on Pinterest. Like I talk about myself, like even I talk about the platform, even, you know, Pinterest is your favorite strategist's favorite platform. Why? Because it's so predictive. It's a place where you gather all of your thoughts, where you gather all of your inspiration. Like this is where I mood board. This is where I collage. This is where I sort of get my inspiration in and also out. And so how do we get brands to really think about creators on Pinterest as those experts, as those curators, as those voices that really carry quite a bit of weight in these like communities, especially in niche communities? And so, yeah, really introducing more creators into everything that I touch on Pinterest, and really expanding the gamut of what it means to have creators produce on Pinterest. Like, yes, it can be a video. I think we're all pretty used to it. You know what I mean? Video is the most typical output that I see right now across every single platform. But the way I love to challenge brands is like, okay, have creators curate collages for you. Like have them situate your product within their own worldview. Then invite creators to actually take over your boards. Like have them curate your boards as a brand. There's also like a couple of different, you know, just like ad product tools, like a creator brand challenge, where you can literally challenge the creator community across Pinterest to come and rally around your brief and produce all different types of takes on, you know, what you're briefing them to do. And so, yeah, I think that's been really my, like a twofold kind of challenge. Think about, you know, how does your brand show up in a Pinterest first way from the perspective of things that you can produce in-house. And then the other piece is like, how can we invite creators to sort of expand your output and really test different communities with creators, because they already have such built up resonance within these like micro and niche spaces.
Yeah.
If I could like mention one thing, both of you touched on it. It's brands forget that they also have, like, if it's a product-based business or a SaaS software, you end up still speaking a certain language. So something that I love to invite those audiences or clients to do is build a fake, like a human avatar around your brand, because if it's not you showing up, then you could create this avatar of, I don't know, let me just use like, what can I use as an example? Stan Store. It is a SaaS software. However, what they've done is they wrapped around experiences. So they're not just selling the actual page or the software, they're selling the solution and the experience created as a result of it. So I love what you were saying about Millie, about the Pinterest boards and all that, because people don't only want to like buy your product, they want to see how their life fits within it. Like they want to know, oh, I'm going to have this at my bedside, but it's no longer the typical aesthetic of just a product placement with a little white backdrop. It's, you can see it in the, what is it called now? Like the grip. I don't know if you guys, I see it like, you know, the social media grip, and it's like all the different things that somebody has in their hand. Like the messy is cool, the confidence, the routine, the struggles behind the product or the software, that kind of humanizes the brand a little bit. So I think that perspective, where sometimes I think people are still stuck in the fact that it's the cute product placement and that works, or just like the typical carousel or the infographic. It's choose somebody to take over the page, choose one of your IT people, go around asking them a question, like really make the brand come to life through the resources that you have. Because somebody would have had to create the ingredient, somebody would have had to create the actual physical look of it, somebody would have had to create your brand identity guide. So actually use that to inform you on creating the content and making it more engaging without having to feel like there has to be a person behind the brand all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I think what I'm hearing from all three of you in different ways is like, find out who your audience is, speak to your audience, you know, and I love that you've all reflected on that from different perspectives, but it's a really good reminder that probably we all need to like continue to remind ourselves of that. And maybe it's not so much that we need to remind ourselves, it's that we might need to remind like management or leadership or whatever to be like, hey, are we making this for other marketers or are we making this for our actual audience, you know? So I think that I love that all of you have called that out, because it's clear that that's a common thread in really smart strategy to be like, hey, why are we here again? Oh yeah, the audience. So I appreciate all of your varied perspectives on that. I'm going to pass the mic quickly to Ms. Christina Pirro. She has a small Q&A.
Oops, I literally took Carmen off the stream. Sorry. Okay, Carmen, I'm still going to take you off the stream. You'll be back. I'll add them all back. As usual, we have to have a little sponsored moment for Slate, because Slate is the tool that makes these webinars happen every month. And speaking of audience, we are speaking to social media managers and brand managers and people that manage content. So just a small little 60 seconds to tell you about what Slate does if you've never heard about us before. We talk to social media teams every day, and the short version is there are three major pressures that we all face as social media teams. We face volume, just constantly posting. That's what we were talking about with the Empire State trend. Like a lot of people posted it because they just needed something to get out. Brand also is kind of an issue. We want to feel native to the platform, but we also want to make sure we are keeping on brand when we're posting content. And then video at the end of it all. Video is the hardest to produce and it takes the most time, and it wins on every platform, but the resources are low. So basically, Slate exists because we want to replace all of the tools that you're using for multiple platforms to make content. We don't think your team just needs 5 different social apps and a design queue to make social content happen. Right now, you might be stuck between 2 extremes. You have the easy consumer tools that everyone downloads because they're easy, they're maybe a little bit cheaper. But then you also have these like heavyweight design tools like Premiere and Photoshop and Figma. And they're all built for designers and creators and editors. But the truth is, it's just like sometimes just going through all those apps is a lot of work. So Slate was built for social teams. It has your entire brand baked into the platform. You have your logos, your fonts, your colors, a video editing platform, a long to short form video editor. So we take webinars like this and cut them into social clips, bite-sized, ready social clips. It's as easy as CapCut and Canva, except every edit is brand approved. We also launched collaboration last week, which means that you can actually create content in the platform, get it approved and edited in the platform as well. So truly, Slate was built for all of us here on this call. And if you are interested in Slate, I'm going to pop up this little CTA, because truly, I think as social media managers, we all understand how hard it is to be in social and how fast we have to move and how fast we have to pivot. So if you're curious about Slate, we'd love to chat with you about it. And that was hopefully 60 seconds. I don't know if I started a timer for that. We're going to invite our panelists back on to quickly chat through some Q&A. So come back on, panelists. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thanks for letting me do my little sponsored message.
Stunning job. Great.
Thank you.
That was good. It was really fast.
I was really fast. I kind of like set
Fine.
a minute for myself. So I was like, let's do this.
Okay.
So one-person team also. Sorry, there's Emily in the chat. If you're one-person team, we're launching our solo tour. So check it out.
Yes. Piro, you can sort of steer the ship on which questions you want us to, or you want our guests to answer. I just wanted to start with one because I feel like everyone here has such interesting perspectives, and I want to know like what your media diet is. Like, where do you go for your sources? How do you stay informed and inspired? Give me a few like, let's say, accounts, media outlets, that sort of thing that you like to go to for your cultural references. Sarah, tell me.
I doom scroll too much, so definitely the internet. I would say also I try to touch grass as much as possible. So I love going to Broadway shows, going to movies, watching shows, those kinds of things. I love reality shows as well. And yeah, I'm just trying to like diversify more of what I consume and consume less, because I've realized that when I consume too much, I actually experience paralysis.
Yeah, totally. I feel like when I feel uninspired, it's like suddenly I hear a voice in my head like, "Ooh, time to put your phone down."
Yeah.
Yeah. Sophia, how about you?
I had a publicist ask me this question, and she was like, girl, this is not okay. Because, as someone who, I'm consistently like, I'm a fractional CMO for some clients. I have to be everywhere and always, like entertainment, but then all of a sudden I need to know what's going on in the church, and then politics and this. It's like, it's a lot. And so one, I thank God, because I have to pray over my mind a lot. So that's one. I love going to events. Like, I love experiences, workshops. That's actually where I get a lot of my information. I look at what people are saying. Like, that is my diet. I go and ask people questions, and then I look at what experiences did they cultivate and create there. And if they didn't, then I'm out the door, and that gives me all the information I need. I scroll the internet a lot. And one of the things that I've recently been getting every time I go to the airport is the Harvard Business Review. I know that none of us probably read actual physical things anymore,
Oh my God,
because we have it all on the
for sure.
internet. But like, I don't know. I actually really enjoyed this, because this was talking about investors and like their strategic pivot and why innovations fail to scale. And I got to have really great, thoughtful conversations, and that will differentiate you in the marketplace. The type of things that like you're reading, if you might not be interested in it, but that doesn't mean like your client isn't interested. And so if you're interested, then you become interesting. So I'm not really actually interested in a lot of these things that are here, but forcing myself to do it does help. And then the last thing I'll say is I am a faith-based creator and business. A lot of our principles are built around our faith. And so I love to listen to sermons, podcasts that are faith-based. The Bible is a really great piece of data and information as well. So that just kind of my little plug in there.
All right. Well, I mean, I can't say that I've read the Bible recently or ever. So that hasn't been informing my work, but maybe I need to bring it in. Millie, I'm curious about you. What's your media diet like?
Okay, I'm gonna spit fire. So one of my favorite ones right now is on Substack, like a Substack newsletter, Alive in Social Media by Laurent Francois. Definitely check that out. The other couple of things I really love is stuff about advertising, mostly on Instagram. Love Rachel Carton's link in bio. I think that's a staple. A couple of other things that I love, or people that I love following for more so brand general news and just like really in-depth POVs. 𝐷𝗵𝗽𝗀 and then Oren Meets World, like just amazing strategists and just like cultural niche POVs.
Yeah.
I love Oren. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I'd say Christina Pirro is Oren's #1 fan.
I am.
Are we competing for that?
So good. Yeah, love it. Okay, I'm gonna pop in a question here from Emily. Let's add this to the stream. What would you recommend for platforms where content isn't as fun? A lot of people have to face this. Like a lot of us have worked for fun brands like Smosh and Crocs and Pinterest. And Sophia, I'm sure you've had a lot of brands that you've worked for that are fun. But what if you're not working for a fun brand? And how do you keep people engaged when jumping on cultural events that interest our target demographic?
I'll jump in. I think it's really about understanding the value of your brand and what you can bring to the audience. So value isn't always going to be a kiki and a laugh and a share. Like it's sometimes going to be info. So it's like, I work with some advocacy groups, like informing people about the stats or informing people about what can, different ways they can help. I think even like when K-pop Demon Hunter was like popping off, I saw a lot of Asian brands like explaining different references and cultural references. So informing is also a different way to find value. How can you make that little entertaining, little bit fun, like maybe play with the UI of the platform. But I think, the value doesn't always have to be entertaining. You can build trust and you can build audiences through another value source, and informing, I think, is a very good value source.
Well, anyone else before I pop into the next one? Great. I'm going to add this one to the stream. For Sophia and Sarah specifically, I have my own small business and struggle to come up with content to post that makes sense. How do you all do it? I hate that I kind of ghost my business, but I don't want to shit post.
Sorry, I'm just laughing because I get it. Something that has helped me, especially when I was starting my business, and all the different brands, is we select batch days, because you're not always going to feel like it, but you cannot rely on your feelings and your emotions to dictate the growth of your business. And visibility is right now, like, it's an attention currency. So there will be another business that does what you do, but if you want to differentiate yourself in the marketplace, you're going to have to make this just as important as inventory, just as important as whatever makes the function of your business work. So I would commit to having one batch day a month. This is just like a practical tool. An AI tool that I'm currently using is vidIQ. And it helps me analyze the other, or like you can give it topics of what you're looking to create in the lane. So for me right now, it's about representation and cultural relevancy. And so, there isn't a lot of content like that. And I don't have all day to be researching it. And I don't want to go to Claude or ChatGPT because I might get a generic answer. So I'm going to go and find the content. I have a day where I research, a day where I ideate, and then the day that I film. And it really makes it a lot easier and practical for me. We do 30 days of content for our clients in a day, and they never have to look at a camera, do a script unless they feel like it. And I think that best prepares you for all the like day-to-day things you got to do in your business, but still keeps you afloat, I guess, for, the content. And don't feel pressured to post every single day. Yeah. I didn't post for 6 months. Like, it's not about how much you're posting. There isn't a client that I will listen to if they tell me we need to post 3 times a day for growth. And it's just saturation. So don't focus about the quantity of pieces of content you're posting, focus on the quality. And if 3 times a week or 2 times a week feels good for you, and that's a consistent amount you can upkeep every single week for 3 months, versus you posting for 7 days and then falling off the face of the earth and then realizing, oh, I couldn't keep that up, I burnt out. So consistency to me will look like 2 times a week for a whole month, and I can keep that up, and that's great. So that's how I would do it.
Yep, I retweet the same. I think you don't have to shit post. And I think the spray and pray strategy is actually not relevant anymore in these algorithms. So I think if you show up with quality every time and consistency, the consistency is the quality, not the cadence, you're going to persevere through. I think Carmen is a great example of that. When Carmen shows up in my feed, I know it's going to be good shit, but I ain't like counting how many times she's posting a week or how many days it's been in between. And I treat my socials the same. I'm like, I don't feel the pressure to post every day, and I don't want to feel that.
Yeah, I think I remember Carmen posting like once a week, and I was just it made me more excited.
Yeah.
And I was like, when's she posting next? I need this.
Yeah, think about your favorite like reality TV show or love or whatever you consume. I don't know what people watch nowadays, but you're anticipating the episode. You're anticipating the next. I mean, I was doing that with Blacklist and the cleaning lady. Like I watch really dark type of shows, but that's the stuff I love. And I'm anticipating making that appointment in my calendar to go and watch. And so if it's once a week, that's Substack, I'm waiting for it to come out and I'm excited to consume that rather being like overwhelmed with you saying so much and doing so much. It's like, okay, I know you're going to be here. It's almost like that exclusivity factor. Like I know you're going to be here, so it's no longer exclusive. You're saying everything and you're giving it to me. So I'll just
and the reason you're excited for it and you're waiting for it is because there's been consistencies. They've delivered time week in, week and week after. Yeah. So I think if you're someone that's like creating a format and you're delivering week after week after, you're creating that audience. You're thinking of your audience and the value you're giving them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I feel like Millie, you had something there. I didn't want to make sure you got it before we wrapped up.
Oh my gosh, yeah, you know me. I have all the thoughts. I know this question wasn't for me, but you know, I've done my fair share of consulting with small and medium businesses. And what I just want to kind of mention in this space is like, first of all, you know, shit posting, obviously no one wants to shit post, but I think it's really important to understand, you know, what role each channel, like social channel, plays in your mix, right? Like, let's say if you're a small business and maybe you're in the B2B space, you know, LinkedIn might be an amazing space in which you can help build that credibility. That's also not a space in which you need to show up every single day to kind of build it up. You want to make sure you're really like showing up when you have to and when you have something of value to say. Then, you know, what your strategy might be for Instagram or for TikTok can be something completely different. This is where you can work on that relatability. This is where you can really humanize your business. So really understanding, like, if you are going to shit post, like where can you shit post and where you shouldn't shit post. That was my two cents there. Like channel mix and understanding what the role is of every channel and how to treat them like with nuance.
Yeah.
So we're over time, and I know that some people stayed back. Oh my gosh, this conversation was so good. And I always say this every social club. Like, I feel like these need to be 2 hours or like a 3-hour podcast because like, I'm like, oh my gosh, we barely scratched the surface with you guys. But it was so good. And I did spin the wheel, and the winner of the gift card is Shannon. So Shannon, if you are still on the call, Shannon, send me a LinkedIn DM. If you can't find me on LinkedIn, I hope I'm going to try to contact you. I'm going to try to find you. But thank you to our panelists. Let's give them a round of applause. I know that most of you are on the chat, but thank you for joining us. It was such a good conversation. Next month, we're having a social club with HubSpot. So we're going to be talking to them about all the research and data that's coming up in HubSpot. And it's going to be a really good conversation. We're bringing in experts to talk about social media, what's happening, some stats, and we're really excited for that one. So stay tuned for the second Wednesday of every month. We're going to promo that on the Slate account. It was such a wonderful conversation. Thank you, Sarah, Sophia, and Millie. And if you want to follow them on LinkedIn or Instagram. They have great content that I anticipate and anxiously anticipate all the time because it's so good. And yeah. Thank you all. And both Christinas say bye. Until next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.